Welcome everyone. My name is Erin Hurley. I'm a professor in the English department at McGill, and it's my pleasure on behalf of myself, the Quebec Studies Program, Quebec Studies Student Association, and Anaïs Lépine-Lopez, who is our co-host today, to welcome you to this roundtable conversation, the Montreal theatre scene as seen by 4 artistic directors. I'm glad everyone has been able to join us today. Let me begin acknowledging where we are meeting. Although we're meeting on a virtual platform, we want to acknowledge that McGill University is located on land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst Indigenous people, including the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg nations. And we do this to acknowledge the importance of the land on which we work, study, and live, and to acknowledge the complex web of relationships of which we're a part. So today, we're very pleased to host, as I say, 4 artistic directors: Quincy Armorer, Artistic Director of Black Theatre Workshop; Sylvain Bélanger, Artistic Director of the Centre du Théâtre d'aujourd'hui; Ida Holmes, Artistic Director and Executive Director of the Centaur Theatre; and Jean-Simon Traversy, the Artistic Director of Duceppe. So we're going to open today, Anaïs and I, by inviting our guests to introduce themselves briefly, their parcours, and the theatres that they represent. And then we have a series of questions that we're going to take in turn as we move along. Those of you who are joining us, you're welcome. Our guests are welcome to type questions and comments in the chat feature, and we will try to take them up as we go. Over to you, Anaïs.
So hi everyone. So like Erin said, I'm Anaïs Lépine-Lopez. I'm a bachelor student in psychology and minoring in Quebec Studies, and I'm the co-president of the Quebec Studies Student Association. So like Erin said, I would like firstly to give our guests the pleasure to tell us about their mission, present themselves and their theaters, what is it doing, and I don't know who wants to start. Maybe but the first in my screen is Quincy, so I'll let you start.
Oh, the joys of the last name that starts with the letter A. Hi, everybody. I'm Quincy Armorer. I am the artistic director of Black Theatre Workshop here in Montreal. And the Black Theatre Workshop is actually the oldest Black theatre company in the country. This season, whatever kind of season it actually is, it's our 50th anniversary. So we're celebrating a huge milestone this year, which is really exciting on the one hand and disappointing on the other hand because of what we're not able to do, but I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But the main impetus, the mission of the company is to focus on stories that affect and are about the many Black communities from around the world. And that's what we do.
I'll go next, and then that way we can just keep it rolling. I'm the artistic and executive director at Centaur Theatre. We celebrated our 50th anniversary last year, so we're sort of neck and neck with Black Theatre Workshop, and we've had a long, actually, standing relationship with them as well. Centaur Theatre is in the old stock exchange right around the corner from the Basilica in Old Montreal, and is devoted to a work of contemporary relevance to our city and our country, and plays for Montrealers, about Montrealers, and in Montreal. So we're we're really working to become a hub for the theater community in Montreal as well, and do a lot of work with emerging artists through our Wild Side program and Brave New Looks. But mainly we put on plays that are relevant, contemporary, and for here.
Thanks, Ida.
Hi everyone, my name is Sylvain Bélanger. I direct Centre du Théâtre d'aujourd'hui. Sorry for my English, it's a work in progress. We also had 50 years old last year, same year as the Centaur Theatre. That's why we're doing a project together right now. My background, I did university in what I can say a multi-arts, multidisciplinary arts program in Chicoutimi before entering a National Theatre School as an actor. But when I look at that right now, I can say that I did National Theatre School much as a director, artistic director, and metteur en scène, that I was doing it as an actor. When I came out of the school, I founded my own company, Théâtre du Grand Jour, that I directed for 15 years before entering Centre du Théâtre d'aujourd'hui. That was a company, I'm talking about that because it affects what I do and how do I see my role at Centre du Théâtre d'aujourd'hui. That was a company that was moved by the idea of, as I can say, the social responsibility of artists and how to transform that in adventures for to talk at one spectator at a time. That was the short or long story that I wrote with this company. It affects what I do today. Le Théâtre d'aujourd'hui was founded in '68. That was a great period around the world, 68. Proof of that, we founded our companies in that period. Jean-Claude Germain and others founded this theater, small space, 80 places, it was the project of affirmation of our own, to develop our own French theater. That was at that time the French theater was like French Canadian theater, very European style stuff coming from France and other countries from there. And the project of Centre du Théâtre d'aujourd'hui was to put, as I can say, a flag on the streets in our country to develop our own political, social, and artistic project around our French, our language. So I see my role there like as I can say, an lightning rod to capture, as the name of the theater suggests it, how to capture what's happening here and now in Quebec. Théâtre d'aujourd'hui, the name says itself. But we are, again, today the only theater in Montreal that is 100% dedicated to Quebec drama. Not only French drama, also French-Canadian drama, but from every language that we have to translate in French after, but we're the only theater that does that, again, historically. Even if all the theaters do Quebec drama theater. So that's it.
Hi, my name is Jean-Simon Traversy. I'm a co-artistic director of a company called Duceppe with David Lorrain. Duceppe is located in Place des Arts. We rent one of the theater here, there, that's called now Théâtre Jean Duceppe. So when our founder died in 1990, they renamed the theater after him. So Duceppe, we'll celebrate our 50th anniversary as well in 22-23. So not right now, but in 2-3 years. But it's funny how like all our companies or theater are like in the same period of time. So I also have Google Translate in my computer, so I can maybe find my words during the. So I have a little bit like the same path than Sylvain. I'm an actor. I studied at Conservatoire d'Art Dramatique de Montréal, and I wasn't the sharpest actor, the best actor in my, and I love to analyze what my colleagues were doing and how they were responding to teachers and everything. So 2 years after, when I found directing, I really like it gave me the same passion that I had like as a teenager to discover theater. So for Duceppe, we've been there, David and I, for 3 years now. It's fun to talk a little bit about how the company started. Jean Duceppe is an actor, so it's a company named created by an actor, was really loved by friend by Quebecers. He used to be on TV, he used to have a morning show at the radio. He was like everywhere, and he was like he didn't have a good diction, so when he was speaking, it was really, really fast, and like he was not like this classic actor that like, he was really your uncle actor or your grand. So that's why you have so much empathy, I guess. And he was playing in Quebec, Quebec City, the Théâtre Le Trident. He was playing two big roles, Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman, Arthur Miller, and also he was playing Charbonneau et le Chef. So, and he tried to bring the two productions in Montreal, but the Trident didn't want to tour those shows, so he bought the productions and he rented the Place des Arts, and it was his daughters who were at the phone like do the box office. So it really started, and it was a big success. And the year after, he presented the season, and at first he was doing Molière and really like things, and gradually really concentrated in narrative stories. So just tell the story. That's what the company is about. We want to. So yeah, we have a 700 seats theater, which is a big theater in the center, and we're really concentrated on bringing and telling the stories that we think are fun to hear and to see right now in Montreal as well. So that's my little introduction.
That's great, thank you. Anaïs, did you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, sure, I can go ahead.
Okay.
So I guess you all see it coming, the obvious question about this pandemic, what we are now today. So, you know, COVID-19 has changed many aspects of our society. So how is the theater scene going on since the last few months? How do you see the future in that sense?
I can launch us into that if you want.
Thanks, Eva.
Yeah, sure. It's an insane moment in live theater. It's a kind of combination of trauma and recovery and reinvention that we're all engaged in a kind of continuous mode, because each time you come up with an idea that you think, oh, this will be the thing we can do for now, it changes again and you have to change again. So, you know, there's a big push to create material for online, you know, ways of receiving things. And that makes a certain amount of sense. We did our first live stream play reading last night at Centaur. So we're tipping our toes in the water around that, but it's apparent very quickly that I am not a television producer, or you know, and the texts that we make for theater are not immediately adaptable as online content. So it's a really huge shift that we're attempting to participate in without a ton of support. We have some, but we don't have there's no extra money for exploring and experimenting to become sort of good at this new moment that we're looking at. It seems to me really important that we remain connected to our roots as theaters, which means that we're connecting to the aspect of something that is live, that is not pre-controlled by editing and those kinds of things. I think for myself anyway, that's the thing I'm trying to find ways of translating for the moment. And we're all literally in this together, in the sense that it's really exciting to watch our colleagues navigate through the way to do this across the country and around the world. You know, there's so much innovation happening in the theater. So there's a lot of inspiration, but it is all based in trauma, so that we're like a giant PTSD company of people.
Oh dear, I'm sure that sentiment is shared among the artistic directors. Maybe I'll just take this opportunity to say that across the 4 companies, we've seen different kinds of experiments, right, in this new moment. So Ida was just talking about the live stream of the reading of Steve Galluccio's new piece last night at the Centaur. at Duceppe, well, I guess you were going to do King Dave, a solo was another sort of route that companies went. There's been outdoor performance as well as a space where more than 3 people can gather at a time if they keep their distance. Quincy, I know your season is upcoming, so we're looking forward to hearing more about what you're thinking there. And Sylvain, at the Centre Théâtre d'aujourd'hui, it seems there's been a real focus on creation and residencies and building new work, and also one-on-one performance, right, where people went to others' homes. So just to sketch sort of the landscape of the different possibilities that you all have experimented with. Jean-Simon, did you want to pick up?
Yeah, I thought a little bit about that for like a little thing to the radio, but we're really like in between what's happening in Europe and in the States, or even in English Canada. Either Quincy, if you have like in Europe, they're like theater are still open, and even with this second wave, they're still open. There's a curfew at 9, but they're playing at 6:30. They adapt to this. In the US, like Broadway's closed until like the end of I think it's May 2021, or maybe they even postponed it. But so we're like really in between. The government let us open, and like they told us this summer. So like we put we call it the alternative season. So we had a show that opened like September 9 and played 3 weeks. And every theater like really put strict. It's like there was no foyer d'éclosion, or I don't know you say it in English. From the art scene or the cinemas. So, and I think we'll have to learn to live with this thing like for many months and years. So I it's a little game now of what can we open, and how can we support those theater companies in their mission if they want to play like in front of 25% of their how can we help them? That's what the government announced, and it can help. So we all need to, but it's that we can meet people in theaters, and I think that's what I'll try to do in the few months, is just to lobby that it's important for our mental health and our empathy and everything, that we stay open and we can tell those stories too, even if it's 25%. And just a link. I love the video part of like just putting a show on the like, because it's competing with cinema, television, and we don't have like all those. But I think that radio is a good, like audio is a good medium for us. And in Quebec we have like all this history of those radio théâtre, like where our grandmas were just sitting by the radio and listening every day to like this. So it's fun so we're trying to like to create those little moments that you can just podcast or listen.
Thank you. And just to add that you broadcast on as a radio play Héritage from last season, right? Yeah, great. Quincy, you want to tell us a bit about how you're approaching this at BTW?
Sure. I mean, well, we had one project that was supposed to be happening just a couple of weeks ago with the National Arts Center, their Grand Acts of Theater initiative that they had for large scale, socially distant outdoor theater. So when this came along in the month of July, we're like, finally, we get to actually do something and still be able to create in a COVID environment. And then Montreal was upgraded to a red zone, and then even our outdoor socially distant show couldn't happen. So that was a little bit of you know, being kicked while you're down, to be perfectly honest. But I think, you know, I'm also sort of on the fence. Absolutely, we're finding these new ways of connecting with our audience and you know, rediscovering how we practice our art. But I'm also, you know, not the hugest fan of theater on screen. It's, you know, and I think that, you know, there's something to be said about the fact that we're all making this up as we go. We need to learn this new way of doing our work. It's, you know, none of us were prepared for this, and it's going to take some time before we get anywhere close to mastering it. And I think, you know, luckily my own opinion of what we can offer online has evolved even in the past 6 months. I think, you know, back in April when I was seeing some online content and realizing like wasn't really enjoying what was happening. But even in the past few months, you know, we've gotten a little bit better about figuring out how we can use this medium for our industry. But I think there's, you know, there's still a large learning curve left for all of us to sort of travel together. So I'm kind of interested to see how it's gonna fare, but my heart longs for the live audience and for the full houses. That I'm missing that a lot.
Yeah, and you're Lucie Leblanc, one of our visitors, our public, joins us all in the missing live theater and sadness around that. So thank you, Lucie, for sharing that. Sylvain, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, maybe in a more personal way. The thing that I found most difficult is that I see my job like my job is to inspire people, like to work on a vision. And right now, we don't know the future, and we don't know the near future. So it's tough to prepare our work for that idea, that how I see my role. My role is to respond to what's happening around me. But right now it's changing every 4 weeks. So, but a theater project that doesn't prepare itself in 4 weeks. So I'm like very tough biorhythm or clock working on. So the name of our theater is Théâtre d'aujourd'hui. So we can't always do stuff to respond to what's happening, but we need 2 years to prepare it, like minimum 1 year and a half, something like that. So I'm like divided in two things. Like it's to protect the shows and the projects that we are working on, that we are already working on. For me, it's really important. It's part of the family thing, or it's like I have like about 20 projects in my head and in the laboratory and all this. So it's a lot to save. It's heartbreaking to cancel them or to report them. So I do not cancel any projects. So I just have to report them all. But what does that say? What does that's going to do for the shows in 2 years? In 1 year, the next future is going to be the old shows of today. So I have a tough position there. I don't think TV is theater. It's not theater. Theater is an experience. It's a human experience. I think that the pandemic reinforced that idea of what we do, of what we are. I think we have to protect that. To watch a show on TV, it's like, for me, it's like documenting myself. It's not really living the experience. It's okay, we can do it, but I think I feel that today, like I'm doing this like to in fear to lose those projects, but not to live the experience. It's not the same experience, and it's not theater. When you read Peter Brook's work, he always start his works or his books by repeating and coming back to l'espace vide. What is theater? It's someone watching someone traveling in a space. So in the present time, in the same space. Is a computer a space? I don't know. Is a mind a space? How can we encounter with people? That's why I developed a project, like Erin said, one-on-one theater, to go to people's homes with a car, with food, with wine. But the day before the project was launched, there was this red zone thing, and like heartbreaking. So in 4 to 6 weeks, I tried to respond to the role that the way I see it. I have a vision to respond to the present, but the present is always catching us right now.
Thank you. I think that's really eloquent testimony for why theater as an experience is essential, right? In a time when it seems so much of what we're doing is deemed non-essential, right, by government edicts. I'll just say that, yeah, I mean, you've all testified to the fact that this is a time in which working conditions are extremely difficult. Leading organizations, it's unclear how that goes. And yet you're being called upon to be even more creative and more flexible than what you usually are as theater people. I will say it's the one thing that gives me hope, knowing that people like you are taking the lead in already such creative thinkers and actors in the scene. We have a question from Dina Aziz, who some of you know as an actor in our community, who's wondering if this forced exploration of online content has prompted any shift in how you understand or define theater. So among the things that I heard you say just now is that it's really refocused how you think of theater as experiential, as live. Are there other comments you wish to make on how the pandemic has made clear to you what theater is, what it's about?
I'm happy to start that off and just run to the barricades. And I think that for me the one positive, or there's a couple of positive things that have come from it, and one thing is a little bit what Sylvain was talking about is this idea that theater takes time to make, and having time to really think about making theater in this moment where we can't just simply put it on and have to rush to put it on and say that it's finished. Even doing the reading of Steve Galluccio's play, what we really focused on was the fact that it was a reading, the first, that it's a process to creating a good play, as opposed to saying this was the play. And I think, and in terms of the work with Sylvain and with the collaboration with Théâtre Aujourd'hui, having this time to work on the project we were working on that was supposed to be this year, the time we've had to work, you guys have had to work on developing that piece has been absolutely like gold, because there's this opportunity to really look at something, try something out, look at it, go away, come back, really spend some time. And I think we, as the commercial aspect of the way we've been making theater for the last little while, had kind of overwhelmed the process. So we had started to just make things in the same way, always getting them a certain amount of time, put it on stage for a certain amount of time, and that was that. And I think the pandemic has given us a chance to go, we don't have to do it that way when we finish. On the other side of this, maybe we have a chance to really rethink what it means to make a piece of theater. Every piece of theater may not be made the same way. And then also, as we engage with the idea that there are voices missing from the conversation and voices missing from the stage, giving us the chance to build a platform for some of those other voices too, is something that I think is really an opportunity that we have to take advantage of. So.
Anaïs, do you want to take us into another question? Great.
Yeah, sure. So now let's put COVID aside for a bit. We are always in this mood of COVID and stress and stressful times. Let's talk about Montreal a bit more. So what would you say are some specificities about the Montreal theater scene? And maybe I think some of you have worked in other places, in other cities in Quebec, or even outside of Quebec. So maybe you have a different perspective about that. So if you can talk a bit more about Montreal.
Well, I'll jump in. I mean, Montreal is Montreal is unique in this country in the fact that, I mean, you know, we're the only francophone of the provinces officially, but there's such bilingualism here, and I think that in the approach to the work that we do here in a Montreal context, you know, even for those of us who are producing most of our work in English, there's always an understanding that many of our patrons and audiences are bilingual and they come from the francophone community, and directly or indirectly, consciously or unconsciously, that's, I think, it somehow permeates into the work, at least in some ways. For certain productions, perhaps a little bit more than others, but I don't think we can really escape the realities of the fact that this is a city where there is a large bilingual population. And so that often, I think, can influence the programming that happens with the shows that are here. And then especially, you know, there's something about the fact that, you know, if Quebec and is kind of the minority in the country as the francophone province, and then those of us who are working in English are the minority in that minority. That's a very specific thing, you know. I think even though we have a connection with our Anglophone colleagues in other provinces and territories across the country, there's something about the geography that we're in that is unique to us. And so that's a major factor, I think, in the way that our industry, at least in the Anglophone side, looks at our work and approaches the work that we do. But I love it. You know, there's the opportunity to be able to be exposed to as much or even more French theater in the city than you are here, and to be able to experience both of those things and to see the commonalities as well as the differences, I think is really charming and influences the work on both sides, I hope, at the very least. So yeah, that's one of the great things about this city here.
Yeah, I really love this question because it forces us to see ourselves in a world, in a larger country, and living in French, working in French. A lot of theater a large part of theater in Montreal is in French. I not often have to respond to that question, so thank you for the question. What is specific? A big part of its theater is in French, but I think that the city is a lot more diverse than what we see on stage. That's one thing. A good thing about I think Montreal theater is youth. A large part of people writing, playing, directing, creating is really, really young in a large part. I think the creativity here is really, really great. I think we compare with great theater around the world. I really profoundly believe that. I think we have a great contemporary theater. But I begin to question a thing. Our theaters are really precise on their mandates. Maybe too much restrictive, I think. When I look at big theaters in Germany and France, the national scenes there are much more diverse on the forms in the same house than here in Montreal. I think we developed the specific mandates and styles to make sure, like, to keep our people with us. Like maybe it's like businesses. But I think the future of our theater has to open up a bit on forms, on languages, on people on stage, on people coming from immigration. There's a big gap there to fill, enormous gap. I come from Ville Saint-Laurent. There's the people that I was with in school 25, 30 years ago. They're not on stage right now in my city. I always can question that. Uh, uh, so I think we have to mix up forms, generations, styles. That's why I'm a lot in collaborations right now to open up the doors, the fences, the windows of our houses, because I think we have it's more than yesterday and before. We're working on that right now at a fast pace, but the historic gap, I think, is enormous. So we have to work on that a lot, but it's exciting at the same time. It's a great time for us right now to think of that, to work together.
When you say opening up, maybe it's a hard question. I don't know if it's too hard to answer, but do you have an idea how to open up to, for example, to minorities, to other people that usually we don't see on theater scenes, like how to do it?
I think we have to do it on all phases, all fronts. It's coming from schools, theater schools. We have a big role to do in that, to lead the ideas, the projects, like to permit the things, the project, the collaborations. We work with Centaur this year. It's the first time in the history of our theaters, 50 years of theater project histories, 10 a year. We have 2 spaces each. There's space to work together on maybe one project right now, but we call it historic, but for me it's there's the gap to fill. I think we have to work on all phases there, all fronts, and it has to start with, if you feel it, do it. It's I think it's the Nike thing. Just do it. I really believe in that.
Jean-Simon,
Yeah, I think it's a really, I totally agree with Sylvain. It's a question that we don't get asked a lot. And I remember a thing we did together, Ida, at the Écurie, which was about like Canadian theater now. So it was also fun to think about it and to have this little look back at what we do. So Quebec is really, theater for French was really a place to affirm this language. So it's like the end of a cycle. I see, because Sylvain, you talk about young creators, but when I exit school, when I finished school in like 2007, I didn't see myself in big theaters. There was no like young directors. There was no, even the Théâtre like La Licorne and Théâtre d'aujourd'hui at that time were like, they were really like this group of people who were doing like 6 mise en scène a year, and like, and you say, well, where's my place there? So like in those last 10 years, there was like young, and people like Sylvain at the head of the Théâtre d'aujourd'hui, and Olivier Kemed and Denis Bernard, and people like opened the doors to younger language voices, and so that's like the end of a cycle. And like during that cycle, like we forgot everybody else. We forgot like people from immigration. We forgot Black people. Women were not represented in like the dans les postes de pouvoir in I don't know you said, but there was like directing was mostly a man job, and also writing. So like at Duceppe, for example, when we did the interview for the job, we did like a little research, and like in the 6 last years, there was like no woman at all writers. So it was like 30 playwrights and all men. So we were like, there might be a problem just right with this stats. So like right now what we're doing is we're like putting together like little things we talk about the systemic racism, like and we are an institution, so we have those and we need to correct those if there's no equality of chances, it's our fault. So we need to So that's what we do with like the open audition. It's important for us once a year to like just see 60 people we don't know who they are. They're people from immigration, they're people from the English world as well. So that's important, and also commission new work. Like for Duceppe, it was not something to do. Théâtre d'aujourd'hui is really the Quebec voice, but at Duceppe, you needed to take the time to write the play on your site. So who has time to write a play in a cottage? Like people who have already success, and so there was like no chance that if you were young or coming from immigration, that you had like that time and that chance to access to the stage show. Putting those things is important. And one thing that I noted, and we have difficulties to manage our success in Quebec. I mean, like when you have a huge hit, a theater like really good play that like talk to everybody right now, like in 3 weeks, bye-bye, we need to put on the other show. And like this show, if we're lucky, we're going to put it like 1 year after, and 1 year after, nobody's going to come. Like they're going to come, but we don't have like this Broadway or West End or like place where you can just say, that was a huge hit. Let's like, and that would help theater to be like, to be even like going broader and meeting more new audience. So that's the thing we don't have right now in the French scene. So yeah.
Very interesting. Thanks. There's a question in the chat for Quincy that is related to what you're talking about in terms of the Montreal theater scene and some of its strengths and particularities being around youth, around strong contemporary voices, around diversity. That is where diversity is richness that is not yet as completely tapped, right, as what it might be. And the question to Quincy is with respect to BTW's really important artistic mentorship program, creating a space for artists to grow and to create. And it's about, again, this move online, because that changes the dynamic and introduces certain restrictions. So are there any specific discoveries that your team, Quincy, has made through this process to maintain BTW's creative atmosphere remotely, especially with respect to emerging artists?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, I think there have been a lot of discoveries. And I also think we're right at the beginning of discovering what our discoveries are going to be. The program has just gotten started. But one of the first things I think that we really discovered, this is going back into the spring when we were having our industry showcase, which normally would be done live in one of the theaters around the city. We weren't able to do that. So it ended up being an online showcase. So we obviously had to adapt in a way of bringing the talents of our emerging artists, some who aren't performers, to be able to share with potential engagers. But the good thing about that reality was that moving the showcase online allowed us to basically have a much wider audience, as opposed to having casting directors, ADs, and directors in the city come to a live presentation. We were able to showcase them pretty much across the country. And that also gave us a chance to think about new ways of showcasing them. So we brought in the idea of arranging one-on-ones with different artistic directors across the country so that the mentees can choose what company or what AD they were interested in having dialogue with, and we set that up for them. So that was something that happened back then. Now that we're in the new session that just started last month, definitely discoveries, but I think the restrictions that come along with having to shift the program into online training, we're trying to change the vocabulary or the perspective of it, and as opposed to looking at restrictions, try to think of opportunities, and that also has to do with, where we have to accept the realities that we're in, and artists right now have to learn how to promote themselves. And if that comes into, doing auditions on Zoom that are happening a lot more now, and this is our new reality. So we're trying to learn how we can mentor them in being able to work in this new theatrical sort of medium that we're in. And yeah, it's a work in progress for sure. But I think that's the main thing. There's opportunity there, and making sure that we have that safe space is something that came up. It's always been important to us in that regard, and we've managed to keep that going. We've got a great team. Our program is run by two awesome artists, Varona Setsuayelo and Mariah Inger, and they're taking on the bulk of the work in embracing our new group of mentees and holding them in particularly now in this crazy time. I think a lot of the mentorship that is going on, it's not just about the work and the art, but it's also, I think self-care is a part of that too. It just absolutely has to be. And so we're expanding how we're looking at the program, and it's going to continue to expand throughout the year, we hope. So
yeah, we feel you in the educational sector too, around the different needs and different types of responses to give in learning environments.
Mm-hmm.
Ida, I wanted to invite you to speak to the Montreal theatre scene as someone who, like the others, but as someone who practiced as a dancer in Europe and comes from the States and worked previously at Shaw. I wonder how that slightly newer, if you will, outsider perspective influences how you see Montreal and the theatre scene in it.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, it's so one of the reasons I wanted to come to Montreal and to Centaur. I went to theatre school at the National Theatre School. And in fact, Sylvain and I realized that we were at school at the same time and didn't ever encounter each other. So it was 95. It was the testament to what the city was like back then. And here we are now together, working together on this, and so, working in Europe when I was there, I was a part of a ballet company where the dancers came from everywhere. We spoke English, French, German, Italian in the studio, depending on what combination of people happened to have rehearsal that day. So it was, it was a very, very comfortable, multilingual, multicultural kind of thing. And I was really hoping that I would find that again, like Montreal felt like the place where that was possible. And when I came to theatre school, I could see that there was the elements of it, certainly the relationship of French theatre to the European theatre scene, which was much more present than in the English language theatre scene. The English language theatre scene I encountered when I came to Canada was very, very British and American focused. So it was very, kitchen sink drama and very naturalistic versus what was happening. Robert Lepage was, I got to see the, what's the one that he did at the Donmar, the 6-hour show, Dragon Trilogy. And I just was like, oh, if that's what, because I was coming out of dance trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I didn't want to stay, I'd been in dance my whole life. So I wanted to break away and I had no skills except for the arts. I thought, oh, I could be a real estate agent. And then I realized I can't even add. So it was not a good, so I was really looking and I saw Dragon Trilogy and I was so, it just was like my brain opened up into theater was so big as an idea in Quebec and in particular in Montreal. And so when the chance to after spending some time with the Shaw Festival, which was great, but was very, very, British and American drama and not the European aspect of things. I was really longing for that sense of multiple kinds of people together, finding the things they have in common. And I find that is the case much more now in Montreal than it ever was before. And there's an opportunity to build on that. It's just the opening up between the two communities, in the two language communities in the theater, French and English. And then also having a company like Black Theatre Workshop here that has really established such a strong presence in the community and has mentored many of the young artists that are now mainstream to our community. And not just Black artists, but all kind, the kind of broadness of the work that you've done at Black Theatre Workshop has had a huge impact on this community. So for me, I see it as we're a bit like Jean-Simon said, we're at the beginning of something new. There's an opportunity to recognize what hasn't happened yet and what could happen next, and building up because the raw materials, this will date me horribly, but There was a wonderful episode of Star Trek, the first one, very original one, where Captain Kirk gets deposited on a planet there. Then he has to fight a kind of crazy lizard beast, and he has nothing. And then he starts to realize that on the planet there's all these like minerals and things that if he like flint rock, and he can make gunpowder, and he has to invent weapons to kind of combat from just whatever he finds on the ground. And I don't think we're combating a kind of, well, you know, like a lizard beast, but I do run a company that's named after a mythical beast. And so it's an opportunity right now to really say, this is the most unique place, not just in Canada, but in some ways in the world, because it has the advantages of a North American freedom, and yet it has this really diverse and gifted group of people all together really close. So I think like I said, we have a chance to make something really special, because I think because it is a new generation all the way across the board in the city. You know, everybody in the city is looking to find the next step, because the Quebec cultural sort of mandate has been achieved. You know, the language of French in Quebec is very solid and very well, you know, there's what was being fought for in some senses has been achieved. And so there's this opportunity to build on that achievement and make a place that's really can be a beacon for the rest of the country and the rest of the world about what it means to really work together.
Thank you so much. Oh, do you have something else to say? Okay,
No,
good.
I just muted.
Good. So we will take the last question for today, because we're almost 12. We'll take a question from the public, from Hurley Abramson. So being a student from McGill University and working also in theater, and wondering your thoughts on how students can get involved in theater right now, given that campus opportunities are closed or canceled. And also wondering, how do you think is the future for youth in theater? How, for example, COVID is impacting the future for next generations for theater?
I'll launch us off. And then
Thank you, Ed.
I think the future, just the fact that technology will be part of our lives more and more going forward. And this generation of young people coming up are the most technologically intelligent. So the innovation that's going to be required for the future is they are it. So I think there's a huge future for youth. They have to want it. Like, I think the real question for the next generation is theater what you want? Because if you don't want it, it won't happen. So so that's, I guess, my sort of way to say it is, go see it, see what you want from it, go participate in it in any way you can now, and then be the future, because I think that's the only way. And we're doing the Wildside Festival, so there'll be some crazy stuff coming up in January. We're collaborating with La Chapelle, so that's a good starter point.
I can answer the question. We have jobs because of people like you. We receive annually in our theater over 100 projects. A lot of them comes from youth, and for the near future, and for a lot of things that we talked before, I think that the young generations are really well placed to work with us, to give us ideas. They always like to mix the shapes more than our walls are willing to keep them in. So so we need them. We need them a lot more than ever. The world is spinning fast. People are scared of a lot of things. We need you guys to believe and to construct or to erect the Quebec that we want. So you are truly welcome.
I just don't want to do it, say a little thing. I think it's going to be hard at short term because, like, as we said, like, we don't want to cancel show that we like add in our heads. So we're just going to report them. So short term, it's going to be really hard to find a place in a theater. So, but you need to use that moment to, like, I don't know, as Ida said, there's many ways to do new ways to meet people, to interact. Theater is that, it's like this. So, and as an artistic director, I'm really like curious to see what will happen with this generation, and that's what I'll try to program in the next year. So you need to find this. How can I, when everything is like blocked, how can I like use my voice and put it out there? So you need to try and do not desperate. No, do not stop.
It's all been said, but I'll just jump in and wrap up and say that, you know, I think theater is not dead, and it's not going to die. That's just the one thing to get out there right away. You know, we will thrive, and it's you know, I think Jean-Simon is right. It's, you know, time is going to need to be a factor for sure. But I think that, you know, just as people, as humans, like we love stories, we need stories, and storytelling is always going to be a part of humanity, and as such, theater is always going to have a role. I think it's going to, you know, we need to be prepared for its continued evolution. You know, I think it's easy to say that theater isn't, you know, even what we're doing right now isn't. It's different than it was 50 years ago. It's different than it was 100 years ago. And 50 years from now, it's going to be very different than what we're experiencing right now. And that's a good thing. And so I think we just need to hang in there and show the world the wonderful community that we are, and hold each other and lift each other. And we will, you know, we're gonna thrive. It's gonna happen. I know it.
Thank you all so much for participating in this roundtable today and sharing your thoughts with all of us. As just a final note to say, I love, Ida, what you said about theater as an idea being so big here. And I think one of the things that I'm struggling with anyway in the moment is how theater seems to have become smaller, right, in this COVID moment, smaller in terms of audiences, smaller in terms of it appears on our screens. But let me encourage everyone to continue to think big about theater as these panelists are doing. We wish you well in your next steps as artistic directors. And we thank you both for your participation today and for keeping the flame alive and remembering us all as family. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks to
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure. It's nice to see you guys as well.
It's a good way to get together.
It's a pleasure for us.
Cool.
Great.